Today I'm going to show you the best deck for every single win condition in Clash Royale, starting off with the Goblin Barrel. This Goblin Barrel deck is a top 5 deck in the entire game, not just a good Goblin Barrel deck, and it starts off with the power of the 1-2 punch of the Princess and the Dark Goblin. You basically get to log/arrows bait with half of your deck, including the Goblin Gang and the Barrel, and the Evo Barrel being extremely strong as well. Evo Valk, extremely underrated, very powerful on defense and offense, and overall you're just going to smash so many people with this deck because you have a 2.8 elixir cycle as well. The best Elixir Golem deck in Clash Royale is an interesting one. We've got this 3.1 E-Golem cycle deck from a few metas ago. Now the problem with this deck is that E-Golem just sucks in general right now because of the Goblin Stein, but if you do want to divulge yourself into the world of E-Golem, this is the best way to do it. You're literally playing a coin flip. So you're either just going to dominate and your opponent can't stop you, or you're going to be able to do literally nothing. So maybe don't play E-Golem. The best Raw Hogs deck is this Queen Hoggy cycle deck, a top 3 deck in the game right now, and actually the most popular deck outside of the starter arena giant deck in the entire game. You're going to be able to apply constant pressure with your piggies. If that doesn't work, you can Earthquake cycle. The Queen is insane on defense and offense. You're going to be able to just wrap up pretty much everything with Royal Delivery Log Queen, and then turn your defense into counter pushes when your opponent's at low elixir. It's really fun, and it's dominant. The best Electro Giant deck is this deck right here, preferably with the Evo Cage unlocked, but if you only have one, the Evo Bomber is much better to play just because you can get so much offensive value out of it. The whole strategy is going to be playing elite defense the entire game, and then late in the game starting up Electro Giant pushes with your either Electro Giant in the back or in front of your defenses, and then using lightning to take out cannons, Teslas, stuff like that. It is a rather slow-paced deck and it's kind of hard to master, but it is extremely strong sometimes. Lava Hound is one of the best cards in the entire game, and this deck absolutely stomps people at top ladder, mid ladder, low ladder, you name it. You're going to be able to just kind of take advantage of people who are playing boosted decks and just bail out every defense with the Inferno Dragon, as long as you're being aware of what air counters your opponent has in cycle and just in their deck in general. You're going to be able to build up big pushes, take down towers instantly, and you're going to be able to defend for pretty cheap with the very strong guards and the Eye Drag. The best Expo deck in Clash Royale is 3.0, and the important thing is that you use the Knight Evolution and the Archer's Evolution. It is the best combo and will give you the best bang for your buck. Archer's Evolution is kind of mid, but in this deck, you are able to win games solely off of getting a really nice connection. You're going to need to have 100% brain power to play this deck. You will need very strong defense and patience to be able to break through late in the game with an Expo or Fireball cycle. Overall, it's a decently strong deck, but it does take some mental commitment. Royal Giant, everybody's favorite. The best deck for Royal Giant right now is this Hunter Lightning version. However, if you want to, you can play Fireball instead of Lightning, and you can play the Phoenix instead of the Hunter. However, Lightning is just the better version in this meta because there's lots of Lightning bait cards like E-Drag and Ram Rider and Goblin Stein in the meta right now. You're going to be able to win games if you apply pressure and play very aggressively in single elixir. You have a ton of success on all areas of ladder, and it is a very strong deck. I'm still sick. The best Hog Rider deck right now is everybody's favorite, totally, Hog Earthquake with the Goblin Stein. You can still use Mighty Miner or Knight. It's just Goblin Stein is like an Ice Golem on steroids with an ability, and it's just completely broken. So if you have the Goblin Stein or Boost Potions, I definitely recommend trying this out. Obviously, Hog is a very fast-paced deck. Tons of Hogs coming down, and you can just use the Goblin Stein to tank and reap the benefits. Graveyard, this is an interesting one because Graveyard has been out of the meta for a while. However, with this new Goblin Stein version, which is, just throw Goblin Stein in your deck and it gets 10 times better, funny how that works, you're going to be able to play insanely good defense, maybe the best defense in the entire game. So if you're a fan of defending every single push, I'd highly recommend this deck. Obviously, Goblin Stein is an extreme threat. That was not a stutter. That was not that bad. You're going to be able to abuse Goblin Stein plus the ability, plus NATO, and overall, just a very solid deck. Goblin Giant, the best Goblin Giant deck is this P.E.K.K.A. mishmash with, guess who? The Goblin Stein, everybody's favorite. you're going to be able to just go in the first 30 seconds of the game by going Goblin Giant at the bridge, or maybe a P.E.K.K.A instead of a Goblin Giant. And you can literally get bailed out by fishermen / bombers / guards, whichever one you want to play. And it's just incredibly ridiculous. It's broken, and you're going to be able to take free towers. So I would highly recommend trying this out if you want to play on easy mode. The Goblin Drill, it's kind of fell out of the meta a little bit, but this is the best Goblin Drill deck in the game. It's a very, very interesting deck because it's not as easy as previous metas. You're going to want to be patient, and you're going to want to abuse Magic Archer the most you can. I mean, Evo Drill is you kind of abuse that as well, but the Magic Archer plus Tornado is an insanely strong composition that you can get free tower damage with, as long as you're careful not to be too aggressive with it. And obviously the defense in this deck is also top notch. The best Giant deck in Clash Royale is interesting because Giant is kind of not in the meta at all. All of the ground win conditions like Golem Giant, Elixir Golem, E-Giant are all suffering due to the Goblin Stein, but there is this just Giant deck that works on top ladder, which is involving the Prince and the Heal Spirit. You'd be surprised how many gimmicky interactions that balloon should not have hit you get with the Prince and the Heal Spirits, and overall it's just a pretty solid deck if you do have a thing for the Giant. Anyways, the Golem, speaking of the Golem, we have this interesting Knight E-Drag deck. E-Drag is very, very broken. If you haven't seen it used on top ladder, you probably don't know how broken it is. Obviously, it is a necessity to use it with Tornado. You're going to be able to defend every single push in the entire game with E-Drag NATO. You're also going to be able to defeat any single defense in the game with E-Drag NATO. So as long as you just be patient and wait for the right time to build up a push, you're going to beat everything. We've got Balloon here, and you probably guessed it, the best Balloon deck is this abomination of a Lumberloon deck with our good friend the E-Drag as well. Once again, no substitutions can be made in this deck pretty much. It's a pretty simple deck where you just go all out on offense. Obviously, if you can play defense, sometimes you want to do it if that means that you're playing defense to set up a push. But realistically, save all your elixir for offense, build up a massive push. There's very few decks in the entire game that are going to stop the power of this deck. The Miner, we've got Miner. Who doesn't love the... We're not going there. This looks like a balloon deck, but trust me, it's actually not a balloon deck. You'll realize this after playing it a little bit, because the balloons hardly get to the tower nowadays with people having a lot of air counters. But you're going to be able to outplay your opponents with the balloon, and if that doesn't work, Miner Cycle is the next best thing. This is a very solid deck with underrated defense and extreme pressure on offense when you can cycle 2 balloons. Definitely would recommend trying it out. Next up, we've got Wall Breakers, kind of a secondary win condition, and you probably recognize this deck because we already called it the best bait deck, or the best Goblin Barrel deck, because it is. And this is really the only Wall Breakers deck that actually works in the meta right now, and Wall Breakers do play a good part in being a pressure unit, except they're obviously not the main win condition, and Minor Wall Breakers has kind of fell out of the meta right now. So this bait deck having Wall Breakers in it is the best answer for what the best Wall Breakers deck is. Battle Ram, it's also another secondary win condition, but this makes it one of the main win conditions. A very funky creation. I don't know who made this abomination, but it is actually very, very fun. No substitutions can be made, unfortunately, again, but Goblin Stein, it just kind of makes or breaks a lot of decks right now. And as you can see, you just apply dual lane pressure deep in the game and bait out your opponents. You want to get them to overspend on one lane, go in, punish the other lane, and just reap the benefits of a dual lane bridge spam threat. The Skeleton Barrel is another secondary win condition that's actually fairly strong in the meta right now in this Recruits deck. Obviously, you know, there's not too many Skeleton Barrel decks out there, but it really shines in this Recruits deck because there's lots of spell bait with mainly just the Firecracker and the Skeleton Barrel, and obviously to some extent the Recruits. It's kind of more of a baiting out your opponent's swarm answers, not just spells. But you're going to be able to reap the benefits of Skeleton Barrel with constant pressure in this deck, and honestly, it's really underrated. Ram Rider, everybody's favorite, the most broken win condition in the game right now in another broken Goblin Stein deck. Who would have thought? This is kind of another mishmash deck where you just throw the broken cards in together. Although this is kind of a deck where you can play extremely aggressively and get away with it like we're doing in the footage here. But basically, you're going to be able to take the old Fireball Bait Recruits deck and slap a Ram Rider in there, and it's just going to do wonders. Would recommend if you have the cards leveled. 3 Musketeers. The best 3 Musketeers deck is this the best Three Musketeers deck. Kind of the problem here is Three Musketeers is really bad. I can't stress this enough. It's god awful. Honestly, let me know in the comments how you would actually buff this card or make it relevant, because it's just completely useless. It's horrible. Nobody uses it. Nobody has success on top ladder with it. And this deck is really garbage. I wouldn't use it. It's just, I guess, the best Three Musketeer deck in the game. But the problem with Three Musketeers really is they're kind of outdated. With all the bridge spam cards added to the game nowadays, there's so many better options than Three Musketeers, and they really almost never get value. So kind of sucks. But yeah, that's going to be it for every single win condition's best deck. Have a good rest of your day.